Okay, so just going to be touching on postpartum pain and pelvic pain, and I'm just going to be going through a few different exercises and little tips that might help you at home, given that we're all stuck at home during this coronavirus situation. So the first thing I'm going to say is that slow rhythmic movement is going to be your friend. So any slow rhythmic movements that we can get in, not just around the pelvis, but around the spine and the hips, is going to be useful with postpartum pelvic pain. So I'm going to tack on the videos of the exercises I'm going to be recommending at the end of this video. But basically there's going to be 4 exercises or steps that I would suggest. The first one is going to be spine mobility. So that's going to be something simple like a cat-camel, cat-cow, and maybe even just a bit of a thoracic or upper back extension exercise. So I'm going to obviously add that. Basically, the reason for that is the more movement and mobility we can get up in through our spine, the less pressure and the less our pelvis has to actually deal with that and compensate with that. So if we're moving nice and freely up here, our pelvis is able to do its thing, essentially. The next one I'm going to be recommending is diaphragm breathing. So this is really important. Not only is it good for your oxygen intake, but it's also, it enables your viscera or all your organs to sort of rise and fall, and it allows for the regular motility and movement of those organs so that they're all functioning really well. And the more that happens, the less inflammation and less pressure there is around the abdomen. And as you can probably guess, the abdomen, that all the visceral contents sit in the bowl of the pelvis, essentially. So the more mobility and movement we're getting through there, the less pressure there's going to be in through the pelvis. And now the final one I'm going to be recommending is going to be a gentle pelvic tilt. So this is going to require a very little amount of muscular control, and that's going to be something that's really important to build on during this postpartum, but it's nothing too strenuous that someone who's in acute pain is going to really struggle with. Obviously, if you're in too much pain and you don't think you're quite there yet, give it a few days, work on your mobility, try and walk around slowly before you get to this. But if you're comfortable with it, if you're comfortable to try it, a pelvic tilt would be really useful. Not only are you engaging your glutes and really starting to get a little bit of that stability in through that pelvis, but you're actually articulating the sacrum or the tailbone onto the pelvis. So you're actually getting this nice movement, which is natural and normal, and one that may have been affected from carrying a baby for 9 months, essentially. So to sort of sum up, we're getting in as much movement as we can throughout the body, nice, slow, rhythmic. We don't want to upset anything. We just want to start to get things moving, get the wheels turning, and then from there, build on a little bit of breathing, build on a little bit of muscle stability, and that should sort of send you in the right direction before you get a real good start at your Kegels and your pelvic floor exercise type of things. So that's what I'd be recommending. Stay tuned now for the actual exercises. And start by really arching up through the back and tucking your chin into your chest like this. And then all the way in the other direction. So arch through the back, look up, and get as much extension as possible. You can alternate through that. Generally, I tell people to just rhythmically up and down for about 30 seconds to a minute. So thoracic cow extension, you can also do this with a foam roller, but a towel is a little bit easier on your spine and on your back. So I generally tell people to do this with a towel. Roll it up, place it on the floor or the Osteo table if you happen to have one laying around. And what I want you to do firstly is put your hands behind your head so that your head's not flopping backwards. And very simply, come down and extend over the towel, just like that. And then you can sort of work your way up and down your upper back, like that. And just really try and open up and get some extension through that upper back. So just going to be going through diaphragm breathing or belly breathing. So generally people tend to breathe through their chest when they're stressed or they're anxious, or just if they're using their upper body a lot because they're sitting at a desk, people end up breathing like this rather than through their diaphragm or their belly like we're supposed to. So I'm just going to be taking you through how to breathe through your diaphragm. So start having one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. And now when you take a deep breath in, this hand should rise and this hand should stay still. So and that's it. It's that easy. Breathe in and out. Nice and rhythmic. Don't have to force it. It might feel like you're straining a little bit because you're not used to breathing through your diaphragm, but that's how it's done. So for the pelvic tilt, what I want you to do is just lie down nice and flat on the ground. If you've got a yoga mat, that's really useful as well. If you've got a firm mattress, you can even try and do it on there, but you'll probably find it easier on a nice flat surface. So just lying down, face up, looking straight ahead. I want you to have your knees bent, so I don't want you to have them all the way up here, and I don't want them to be all the way down there. Just a nice, neutral, comfortable position. And then what I'm going to get you to do is to start off, put one hand or both hands under the small of your back, just like that. And so what we're going to aim to do is we're going to aim to push our back into our hands. So you might initially do it and you might think that's what it is. I don't want you to be contracting your abdominals, right? So I don't want you to be going and squeezing through here. What I want you to do is focus on gently rotating that pelvis up, tilting that pelvis. Can you see that? Back down and up, just like so. Tuck it in, and you should feel some pressure onto your hands as you're going back and forth like that. So it's a really small, fine movement, but it's one that requires a lot of control. You should be nice and relaxed in your upper body and your stomach, and it should just be your tailbone doing the work. If that's comfortable, I'd suggest you move on to a glute bridge. This is a little bit more advanced and a little bit more strenuous on the body, so obviously if you're struggling with this, don't progress to the next, but the glute bridge is going to be a continuation of that pelvic tilt. Nice and easy and slow. You're going to tilt and then just follow that up until you're essentially nice and straight and back down. Now with all of these exercises, I recommend usually about 30 seconds to a minute of just slow and rhythmic movements. You can do it multiple times a day if it's not causing you any pain.